Gear up, Scooter fam. Today, I thought I'd jump in a little bit right off the bat and just sort of to start off talk about my channel versus other scooter channels versus other similar named channels and so forth. So, I chose Electric Scooter Guy because I like the name. Um, it really had nothing to do with anyone else's channel. I don't have any interest in having my channel look like their channel in any way. And so I just want to get that out there. Any similarities are purely coincidental. I like the name. It was available. As simple as that. So any coincidences are coincidences, and I hope there's no confusion between those channels. But my channel is my own channel. I don't think there's any videos similar to mine that I've seen, and if so, that is also a coincidence because I haven't seen this format. So once again, I mentioned this in another video in a rant. I'm not going to rant on this video, but I just want to touch on it. This video is not like anyone else's videos. It is not intended to be like any other scooter channel. So that being said, I hope to build an audience on my type of channel and how I like to present things. So that being said, let's move on to the main reason for this video. So one of the things that I want to do on this video is have timely and accurate information. I said that before. And speaking of the accurate part, I'm not always perfect. I'm not always accurate, but it is my goal to be accurate and to be timely. And knowing that I'm human, I'm going to make mistakes. Some of my information might be outdated. I certainly try to stay on top of that as much as possible. But when I fall short, I certainly don't mind that someone corrects me in the comments. A viewer corrected me, say that I was mentioning that there was a 40 amp hour Nami Klima, and I believe I did say that, which is incorrect. There's a 25 amp hour, which is what I have, and then there's a 30 amp hour LG cell version of the Nami Klima, which the Nami Klima Max. So off the top of my head, I thought it was a bigger difference between the two, and so I thought I'd kind of talk about that a little bit as well. So I was mistaken. Thanks for correcting me. I'm always grateful for being steered in the right direction. I like to keep my information current and accurate. So thanks for pointing that out. I absolutely appreciate it. I'm never too big to admit that I made a mistake and correct it and move forward. So thank you very much. It is the 25 amp hour and a 30 amp hour LG batteries that the Klimas offer. So why I got the 25 hour amp hour battery instead of 30 amp hour battery, and the simple reason is value. So for me, the 30 amp hour Klima didn't offer enough of a difference for me to justify, in this particular case, increasing my budget a few $100s. Is a few $100 the end of the world? No, it isn't. But if I set a budget, my plan was to stick to that budget, not start making allowances to go beyond my budget. So, at this point in my life, if I make a budget, I try my very hardest to stick with it. In this case, I found a scooter that I really wanted, that I really liked, that I've been watching for a very long time. Admittedly, I was leaning toward the 30 amp hour LG. But when I sat down and I had my budget in front of me and I look at the two versions and I think to myself, is it enough, to matter? I'm looking at other scooters too, namely the Cabo Wolf Warrior X at a better deal, probably. But this Klima actually recently dropped. I think it was at least a couple $100 higher, and so that was it dropping to 18.99 was a big deal. The other one dropped a little bit too. I think it was like 24.25, and it dropped to like 23, something like that. So, in any case, you have um, one that is within my budget, and I don't have to make extra room for. Um, and then you got another one who has a slightly larger battery, gets slightly better range, and has LG cells. So I'll just touch on that for a moment. The range between the 25 amp hour and the 30 amp hour isn't very great. Um, difference wise, the fact that they're LG batteries versus generic batteries, it would matter more to me if it wasn't a reputable brand like Nami. The fact that it's Nami, I'm just not too concerned about the battery. So I feel like they've done a good job of getting a quality battery, even though it's not a name brand battery. I feel I trust Nami that they've taken this into heavy consideration. Knowing their history, I have no reason to think otherwise. Um, Once again, I was leaning towards the LG. I'm not saying it's not worth the money necessarily, but it wasn't worth me increasing my budget. Uh, just not even close. So it doesn't bother me that I have a battery that's not LG. It doesn't bother me at all because I trust Nami. Now, if this were a newer scooter company, let's say T Wing, I like the T Wings. But what gives you a little bit better feeling about getting a T Wing, being that you don't know a lot about the company and they don't have a lot of history with scooters, is that they have an LG battery, and they have a nice name brand with quality sales. That makes you feel better because you're just not sure about the rest of the scooter. Now the battery's a pretty big part, safety and everything like that, longevity. So it matters. It matters a lot. And so if I was taking that into consideration with a company that didn't have a big history, it would matter a lot more. I'd be nervous about getting a scooter, especially of the performance of something like a T Wing, without having a name brand battery. To be honest, but with the Nami, I just feel confident that Michael Shaw has done a great job of making sure that these batteries are substantial, safe, and well made. So, and a lot of that comes down to the BMS as well, not just the cells of the battery. So I'm certain this scooter is safe. I'm certain that it's gonna last. The battery's gonna last, and if you take care of it, I plan on taking very good care of it. So I don't perceive any problems simply because I chose a non-name brand battery cell over LG at about $300 more. So if both had been within my budget, would I, maybe so. I mean, if the Max dropped down below $2,000, that would have been incredibly tempting. So, but the fact that it didn't, and the fact that I could get the 25 amp hour Klima was too tempting to pass up. Uh, so that's my take on that. I think they're both. That's the only difference between the two scooters. There's no difference in um, the motors, the power, or anything like that. They both have the same speeds, which is interesting because I would expect the LG battery to be slightly heavy, and with the same everything else, you would expect maybe a little less range, maybe less top speed, slightly less acceleration, but or vice versa, going the other way. Just because the lighter battery, it's got to be a tad lighter. So moving on to next topic of discussion, which is Black Friday coming up. So in just a couple of days, technically tomorrow, Apollo will be dropping their Black Friday sale. They've announced it. I've seen some stuff on it. They said some scooters will be up to $600 off or so, and then there'll be like dual package scooters that you can get up to like 1100 and something dollars. So um, the substantial deals are going to be like for two scooters. We'll see what they all fall into. My expectation is they might drop the Pro a little bit. I doubt they dropped either one of um, the new Phantoms very much at all, because they're brand new, and they're probably not having a problem selling those. Uh, then and I'm keeping an eye on other sites as well. But the Apollo is the only one that I've gotten like any kind of information on so far. So I'll continue to track that and update you guys as we go along. Um, but yeah, I'm interested. This is going to be my first Black Friday in the watching scooters, and so I've not been following scooters for a full year yet. Probably like 3 to 6 months. I really just kind of started learning about scooters, and so and this is of course my second scooter um, type. I've got two Hover 120 Max scooters, but they're the same. So the Nami's kind of like my second scooter. I don't know a lot about the Black Friday sales. I've heard a lot of hype, but I've seen the prices jump around a lot. So hopefully they're actually like really good deals on Black Friday, just versus these little small fluctuations that I've seen like over even the past 3 to 6 months in scooter prices. So I'll definitely keep you guys up to that, up to date on that. So next thing I just want to talk about real quick was sort of in general, just what my thoughts are on the Klima so far. Um, Obviously, I don't have anything too negative to say about it. I've mentioned the display, just the speed being a little small relative to the rest of the screen. I wish it took up more part of the screen than it does for visibility. That's about the only really constructive thing that I have to say. Everything else is completely nice, completely flexible, completely workable. Um, I don't have any real problems with the Klima. Um, but what do I think about how much it improves my ride over, let's say, the Journey Max? How much better is it? Is it worth maybe 4 or 5 times the Journey Max price? And that's a tough question. I don't know that I have a complete wrap around that. I mean, I haven't had the Klima that long, and for the period that I have had it, I've only rode it a handful of times, and so I've really got to get out there more to get really a full assessment of that, which I am doing. But just kind of want to give you my thoughts so far. I really like the control of the Klima. As far as the accelerator, the sine wave controllers are awesome. I think you can't really beat them on any scooter. So for a scooter in the price range that the Klima's in, you would expect them to have sine wave controllers. But it definitely makes all the difference in the world. It's got a lot of pickup. It's got a lot of power. But you control the power. So on the Journey Max, there's not quite as much power in as the Klima, obviously, but you do have you don't have the sine wave controllers, and so the acceleration is jumpy. Even when you let off of the accelerator, it can kind of go back and forth a little bit. You really got to get a hang for how that feels, and then when you leave it and go to another scooter, it's actually difficult to get back into it and get a feel for it again. When I was only riding it every day or every time I jumped on it, it got very natural. I wouldn't even think about it. But then when I go back from a sine wave controller to the Journey Max again, with the decent acceleration, but without the sine wave controllers, it didn't take me too long into the ride to get used to it, but When I first started, I had trouble. I was like, "Wow, really? Is this how this is?" And I remember that early on, and it did take me a while to get used to that before I was comfortable accelerating. Especially like full on from the beginning, just because I didn't have a feel for it. So it took a little getting used to going back to the Journey Max a little bit, and so that's a big improvement. Um, is it necessary to have sine wave controllers to get used to riding a scooter? No, I could. I got used to controlling the Journey Max really well. I didn't. It's not like I, never had control of the scooter. I got very good control of the scooter. Um, Both of them, they were identical. So no problems there as far as that. You don't. Do you have to have it? No. Um, is it nice? Sure. Uh, when you're used to it, you don't even notice it. Um, but if you go to a new scooter, and you don't want to have to worry about that kind of thing, something like the Nami Klima is nice because it's easier to control. Um, but day to day, is it the end of the world either way? Not really, not really. You get very used to it. Uh, the the suspension. I think we mentioned it before. There's really a world of difference between the two. Now that's the only really two that I have to compare, which is two different universes. And one is great suspension, and the other one is no suspension. Now the only thing I really don't have anything to compare is anything between, right? So I've got probably the worst suspension you can get, besides maybe solid tires on top of what I've got. So that would be worse, but um, not not incredibly worse. It probably the Klima probably takes that up, quite a bit. But I don't have anything like in the middle. I don't know what middle of the road um, suspension would feel like. I know this Nami suspension is super nice. I know I still feel bumps, but they're just not as impactful, which is super nice. Um, but like I said, I kind of don't know what that would be in between. So I only have the two as sort of data points in my memory. So uh, obviously that is a big thing. So that's huge. The tires obviously are tubeless, and I expect to have much fewer problems. I don't really have a preference so far over tubed and tubeless, other than the split rims. So if you're gonna have tubes, you gotta have split rims. The biggest pain I've had to deal with, period, on the Journey Max is changing tubes, and it's just a real pain. I've popped several tubes and talked about that on my channel. So um, it either has to be split rim or tubeless, and tubeless is fine. Um, it's super fine with me. I've got to get some patching equipment or plugging equipment and so forth, so I don't have to worry about getting a puncture when I'm out. At the moment, I have nothing, so some slime and no way to air it up. So that would be a trick to pull off. The speed obviously is a deal, and it's nice once again to be able to go over 20 miles an hour significantly if need be. I've only got up to like 23, but the fact that I can jump out into traffic, and I know I can keep up with traffic on certain areas, um, on the slower speed roads, gives me confidence. With the Journey Max, I know I'm only going to hit 20, and if they're coming up on me fast, I have nothing else to give it. I'm giving it everything I can. So I don't. That's that I don't like that feeling. With the Klima, I know I have a little bit more to go. The mode I'm in thinks only goes up to 26 miles an hour, but I really don't ride around on roads that I need to go much more than 26. 25 is probably as fast as I'd need to go anywhere I go 90% of the time. Um, and so to me, it's nice to have a little bit extra besides 20 miles an hour. It doesn't necessarily have to be 42. I think I mentioned that, it's nice to have, but it wasn't absolutely necessary for me to get a scooter that went 42 miles an hour. The range is nice. It looks like I'm going to get way better range than I get off my Journey Max doing the same kind of commutes. I'll have more substantial data on that as I go along. So far, I feel like pretty confident saying that that's going to be the case. I got 54.1 miles off my first full charge, and I'm now on my second full charge. And I'm down. I went only on one 8 mile trip, and it's looking pretty similar. A little, kind of, we'll see how it goes. It looks a little better off the bat, but we'll see. So, yeah, that's it for that. Do I have, last thing, just do I plan on getting a new scooter anytime soon? I don't have any plans on getting a new scooter. I don't have any reason to get a new scooter. If a scooter deal pops out at me that I just can't pass up, you never know. And I would be looking for something. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. It has to be a good value. If I find it as a value I can't pass up, and it's something I've really been keeping my eye on, I just can't say one way or the other whether I would be willing to pull the trigger or not, depending on what it is. There are several scooters that I've got my eye on. I still like. They don't necessarily have to go 42 miles an hour. I kind of like. I've got the Klima now, so they have to go that fast? No. Could they go faster than that? Sure. There's scooters that I've kept an eye on. If they became a really good deal, if they went 60 miles an hour, you never. I mean, I might jump on it if I thought it was a good perceived value. But it's all about value for me, bang for my buck. Not necessarily speed, but all things considered. Guys, if you enjoyed this content and you found it helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. And happy riding.